Hey traders, welcome to another YouTube Live. So we made a couple changes with the amount of alts that we're going to be covering. We added, I believe, 5 more in total. We can see at the top left, we have Link, Binance Coin, XRP, and we introduced BAT. We also already had TRX within the mix there. For the bottom left, we introduced VET. We already had ETC, Ethereum Classic. VET is VeChain. And then Dash, we introduced ZEC or Zcash a little bit ago, not too long ago. It's a little bit new within our, portfolio of assets that we look at. And then MATIC, we've been looking at that for a while. And then we also introduced IOTA, Ethereum, obviously we would have for a while. EOS, Cardano we've been looking at for a while. And then we introduced Stellar Lumens as well. So definitely getting more broad with the alts. We do see that there's a lot of alts getting tons of buy pressure. Just taking a quick scroll, look at Cardano, massive buy pressure to the upside. We see a ton of buy pressure up to the upside to Stellar as well. But we're going to be covering just a few of the alts here within this video. And then tomorrow morning, we'll go over and cover all the alts within the list. And then from that point forward in the morning, we will try to cover the main alts we're looking at, as well as just a general coverage of the overall market. So starting with our first pair that we're going to look at, we'll go through the Actually, what we'll do first is we'll go through the trades that we're currently in, because that is obviously a priority. Trade management is important. So for MATIC, what we did is we raised our stop loss up from where it was to above break even, as well as covering the fees for the actual trade itself. So we're basically 100% break even at this point. We have our couple take profits, and I think what I'm going to do is reduce it. So it's 25, 25, 25, and then I'm going to leave the last 25 for the price to just let it run and continue to go towards the upside. It's looking really good. A lot of the alts are gaining a significant amount of bullish pressure, seeing a huge move. Even Ethereum, a large cap. BTC obviously has been moving a lot up as well. So overall, lots of bullish movements. The overall sentiment is looking really solid for long opportunities. ZEC is a pair I'm looking to enter, but I would like to see the pullback and the double confirmation with the buyers coming back and injecting buy pressures within this area of support. We currently have one pullback, and then we see a first injection of buy pressure within this couple candles right here on the 1 hour chart. I'd ideally like to see the price come back, retest these lows, and find a level of support again, so then I can really get a validation that there's going to be buyers within that area to pick up the price, push it above the previous high, and then obviously beyond seeing higher highs and higher lows, seeing the bullish momentum continue. Dash was a potential I was looking at when the price was at the potential zone here. Looking at the 4 hour chart, there's a big wick there. It pulled down, and we didn't really get a clear line. I guess that was a line there, but we got a double confirmation of buy injections. So in that regard, we did get a indication that we could have entered, because there's a lot of things going for this trade, and I'm still looking at this potentially. If we do pull back and test these resistances right here as new levels of support, so if we come back here and even potentially just get one level of buy pressure where we get a bullish handle, then it could potentially be looking to enter, because then it could just be a nice reversal for a double bottom there before we look to enter, and this would really be the only level of resistance. But with so much buy pressure coming in, and as we can see, we're starting to see more volume coming into the market, more relative volume, which is good for us because there's more eyeballs, there's more transactions taking place, and that means volatility. So on Dash, still looks pretty good, but I'm not going to be rushing to enter just yet. I'm going to try to wait until the price comes back to around the 131 zone, and then we'll be able to try to look to see if there's buy pressure coming into the market, and if there's validation of that, then we can look to enter. EDC not too much, and VeChain not too much going on. So the risk that we had on MATIC is now completely gone. We now have basically $0 of risk on MATIC, and then we can allocate that risk percentage on the total portfolio to different trades, because this, if it does go against us, will come out to a $0 P&L. So we can allocate our percentage, our max percentage that we can be risking at any given time on the total portfolio. We can now expand that to new pairs because we can guarantee ourselves that we're not going to be losing money on this particular pair. Now, same thing with TRX. Now, it didn't hit our take profit, but I wanted to potentially enter a few pairs before going to bed. It's around 8:34, as you can see on the bottom. And what we did with TRX as well is move the stop loss from where it was previously to just above the break-even point, just below the area of support right there. So if the price does pull back a little bit, we got a little bit of room for the price to play before we actually get stopped out. And then our first level of take profit is just at those highs there for just 25%. And then I'm going to do this similar thing where we're doing 25, 25, 25, and then leaving the last 25 for a dynamic take profit, seeing how the price moves, seeing the trend. If it's continuing, there's a good possibility that we will just hold until we're seeing the structure shift from higher highs and higher lows to now lower highs and lower lows, breaking supports, holding resistances. You know what it is, but that's what we're going to be looking for. So not a take profit hit on this yet, but we are going to just patiently wait, and we moved our stop loss up. So now, like MATIC, this is going to have a 0% risk on the portfolio, giving us, again, additional percentage that we can now then risk to look to gain exposure in other alts. Because now if this trade, if the worst case scenario for this trade and as well as MATIC is for us to not make any money and for us to walk away empty-handed, which is not a bad deal, and we have exposure to some significant upside potential. So that's the ideal situation to be for multiple alts, and that's exactly where we are. And we're not really going to be doing much else with TRX. Let's just quickly look at BAT. Quickly going to the 4 hour. So we got to push to the upside, pull back on a very, very strong move, on a bullish move to the upside. Broke a key level on the chart of a resistance and then pulled back. I don't love looking at the 15-minute, but I did look on the 15-minute here, and we are squeezing from a previous resistance to a new level of support with a descending zone connecting the lower highs. We do see volume distribution within the chart within this consolidation after breaking the resistance, which does potentially indicate some bearish pressure more than the bullish pressure, but obviously we have to ensure that we are always trusting the price action first. That is our first indication. We have to think of price action as the king. It is going to be the number one thing that we look at in terms of indications and how we navigate through the market. So I'll try to stick with the 15-minute chart, not going to enter. We don't really see any higher highs and higher lows. We see lower lows and lower highs. Even on the 15-minute chart, obviously on the larger time frames, we see a very strong move towards the upside, seeing strong higher highs and higher lows. And this is a nice pullback for the previous resistance to be a new level of support. And looking on the hourly, we do see that overall, looking back at the previous month of February and the last 25% of January, there is volume accumulation more than volume distribution, especially on the strong pushes to the upside. And when we are getting these consolidations down, we're not seeing that sell pressure come into the market nearly as much as we're seeing the buy pressure on the way up, which is really good to see for the bullish bias. So I'm personally not going to enter just yet, but it's looking pretty decent for a potential. I'm probably not going to enter before I go to bed, but we'll see how it looks in the morning. XRP is also a potential long here. Now what we're looking for is to see a nice entrance after a push to the upside and a pullback validating this new level as a support. So we see a very strong resistance right here. That's great to see. In my eyes, it's still holding the zone. We need to see the price sort of like this. We see a strong push down, and then a pullback. Obviously, this broke to the upside, and we're wanting the price to break away from the pattern, but we see that it was a clear push to the downside, and then we see the price come back and test the gray area, and that's exactly what we're wanting to see with this zone as well. We're not looking for wicks, we're looking for actual confirmations with the candle closing above the zone, and then we're looking for price action confirmation with at least 2 injections of buy volume coming in before we look to enter ideally. Now, recently we have been seeing more alts see quicker buy pressure come into the market compared to before. For example, we're just seeing 1 injection of buy pressure in a lot of these alts here. Just looking, this was 2 injections of buy pressure. Theoretically, that would have been a good entry. But overall, we're seeing a little bit less patience or less breath needed for the alt market. So we are going to keep that in mind. And that's all we're going to talk about in that particular browser. Let's just look right here. And then for the last one is going to be IOTA, and then there's not much else that we need to be talking about within this section. Let's look at IOTA because it looks pretty interesting. Now there's a massive resistance zone, but this is one of the alts that actually is making a correction move to the downside, seeing lower lows and lower highs for a little bit, which is really nice. I like to see that. A lot of the alts are just absolutely mooning, seeing the recent high be much greater than the previous high, whereas this is still within that consolidation, and we can get a nice entry within the start of the next move soon after the completion of the consolidation. And that's what we're looking for on the 4 hour. We can see that it's a very nice zone there, and then on the 1 hour as well, we broke a previous resistance. We can see that right here, strong level, both wicks touching right there, so that we know that the buyers are more in control of the market, and especially because we broke our descending projection resistance. We can see that right here. It's a pretty wide zone, but I wanted to capture the entire area. And let's just zoom in and discuss the flow of the market and what we could potentially be seeing for an entry signal for this pair. So we see a descending zone here with the anchor point at around 37 cents, and then we see the first touch point right here, and then we did miss this entire zone, but then we got a rejection point and a couple of rejection points at those lows there. So I did confirm that zone. It's not ideal, but for me it's still a zone that is confirmed 3 times, so it could be a potentially dependable area. And then I did have to incorporate this big move to the upside with the 1 hour and even 4 hour closing at that zone. So I put a big projection all the way up to this area, and then it did hold for a nice new level of support. But the price is way beyond that point, so we can assume that it has broken the structure downtrend, because this is a high, this is a lower high, this is a lower high. Now this is a higher high than this previous high, which is a high itself, but this is a lower high than this high. So the market structure is looking like it could change. We've created a higher high, and if we're able to create a higher low, if this is able to maintain as the higher low compared to this low, and then this low, which held, that would be looking pretty good for the bulls. So what we want to see is this is a clear ascending triangle pattern where we see a horizontal zone hold for a resistance, and we see higher lows forming a squeeze in the price where an apex is right here, and the price has to make a decision, and we're going to capitalize on the price making a decision. Now we do see that there is a resistance, but we want to ensure that we're entering not at a wick like we see wicks up here and we see wicks down here. We don't want to enter on a wick. We want to ensure that we're entering when the price is confirmed to actually be above and beyond the zone, and then we're looking for that exhaustion phase to enter at the completion of the exhaustion. So we want the price to come up and break this zone and hold at least on the 60-minute chart at a minimum. Ideally on the 4-hour chart, that would be great, but the 60-minute or 60-minute on a minimum. And then we want to see the price come back and validate this zone as a new level of support before we look to enter, and that's when the entry signal will be taken place for IOTA. So that's about it for the alts. I'll be making a good video for you guys and girls in the morning tomorrow with all these pairs analyzed. I already talked about IOTA. Now, when I talk about these alts, I might not go through from the weekly every single day, but I will talk about them briefly, discussing what they're doing and what we could potentially see, looking at major zones within the chart and covering them day by day. So it would be very interesting. It's going to be quite a bit more information, quite a bit more analysis for you guys. I will put the times within the show notes for each pair that we will be covering, so it'll be easier for you to navigate which pair that you want to see. Let's say you're looking for only one or two pairs that you're in, or you just want an analysis on one single pair, and we do it. You can click on that time frame and you'll be able to jump right to the start of the analysis. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you will enjoy the value and the analysis in the future, and we will hopefully do a webinar soon as well, so we get to talk to people and create that network and the discussion going, instead of kind of like a one-way road where we're just providing education. It's great to have feedback. It's great to have discussion from student to mentor. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you enjoy the rest of this, probably either Tuesday or Wednesday night. So have a good night, and talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.